Guys, the Chicago Bears have found an extra advantage that they keep getting dividends from, and it's none other than Joe Thuney. And that's an extra advantage. That's the guy that we have who is an absolute stud on the field, but he just has that it factor. And it's going to make this whole offensive line ball out simply because of his presence, simply due to his influence. And in this video, I'm going to talk about some real things. There's a recent interview by The Athletic interviewing defensive players and offensive players. And just this player being here has raised expectations. It's actually causing these players that go up against him and play beside him to play chess and not checkers in preparation and also technique. So let's get into this, right? Iron sharpens iron, and man, this is exciting, and this is a time during the offseason before bullets start flying to really profile some of these advantages to look for with the Chicago Bears. And let's start with Gervon Dexter. He went up to guard Joe Thuney after one of their practices and said, "Look, man, I'm trying to figure you out." And obviously, this is a guy that comes with accolades, a guy we're not used to having here at Hallis Hall. But here's what Gervon had to say. He obviously is still able to move. He's calling him old without calling him old. My daughter does that to me. But he has the mind game to where he'll close off one side and stick to another side, or vice versa. He's very smart. So you have to try to beat him there and then beat him with technique. That's nice to say. I have to hone my technique going up against this guy during practice. He's one of the best guards I have ever faced, if not the best. And this is Thuney is kind of in Dexter's head in a really good way. It's making the third-year pro really think through some stuff like, how can I beat this guy? How can I beat this? And then also, let's look at the last time that the Chicago Bears have had an all-pro guard. When is the last time? I will wait. You're going to have to count back decades and decades. Check this out. Stan Jones in 1959 was the last time that your Chicago Bears have had an all-pro guard. Let that sink in for a minute. How blessed are we here to have these new offensive linemen? They haven't had an all-pro offensive lineman. Who was the last one? He has a podcast. You guys listen to him. Olin Kreutz in 2006. And then they haven't had an offensive lineman with multiple all-pro selections since 1989. Jay Hilgenberg. I didn't realize, guys, that it's been this bad at offensive line, but it actually has been. 7 years since a Bears offensive lineman even went to a Pro Bowl. That was Cody Whitehair and Charles Leno. I mean, we're talking about, too, that Pro Bowl, like the ability to make the Pro Bowl, the bar's been lowered a little bit, right? But, so what is a three-time Pro Bowler? We've got a two-time first-team All-Pro, a four-time Super Bowl champion. What does he look like? What's it like to have one of those on his team? Obviously, as fans, we have absolutely no idea, but the players for the Chicago Bears are starting to figure it out. And Joe Thuney, he doesn't say much. He doesn't talk to media the ton. He's only talked to them once this summer, I believe. And he just really lets his performance and how he is in the locker room speak for himself. And I think, honestly, he was programmed with the New England Patriots to do things the Patriot way. And this type of quiet leadership is what I really respect. It's what I absolutely love. And here's the thing. This is what offensive line coach Dan Rouchar had to say about him. And this is cool because other people are talking about Joe Thuney. He doesn't have to do it himself. And that shows what we have here. He's the same guy every day. How he walks in, how he does his job. There's a consistency over and over and over. And there's something about the player that does it over and over and over consistently like he does that you have so much trust in, and he builds around this group. And isn't that what he's saying about Joe Thuney? Isn't that what all of us would like to be said about us, right? He is consistent. Every day he walks in, he does his job. There is a trustable consistency, and we know this guy is going to be solid over and over and over. As husbands, as fathers, as friends, as workers, man. I just really love this acquisition of Joe Thuney. I think just the kind of guy that he is goes beyond football. The more that you hear about him, the more that you research about him. And I think that's a cool thing about being fans, right? You find guys on your team that you identify with even personally, makes it way more fun to root for your team. So anyways, now we've got another concern on this team as well and why he's so important. We've talked about how he hones in the defense, and I'm going to talk about Grady Jarrett. Had a few things to say about him as well, but we are in a crossroads as well beyond the starters. We have got, this guy looks like an absolute stud in Ozzy Trapillo. He just needs a little bit of help, a little bit of development to get over that hump and get there. And then you have Luke Newman out of Michigan State, I believe. He is overachieving, and he's made this roster as a late-round draft pick, but he needs some sharpening, right? He needs some iron versus iron. And then you've got Karan Amagaje. Prototypical NFL body, comes from a small school. He's a guy that this coaching staff absolutely loves and wants him to be developed through having an actually good offensive line coach in Dan Ruchar, and also having a guard on this team like Joe Thuney. Man, if we could develop these three players to be like consistent presences here, and also Braxton Jones, he's going to hold it down at least to start the year. If we could have rapid development, just so cool. So let's hear a little bit from Trapillo. Just watching him work and sort of lead by example is pretty inspiring. Just going out there every single day with the same attitude, doing the right thing, being in the right place, always hustling. That's a big thing. I mean, we have a player that we had last year, I will not speak his name, who is no longer on the team, just simply to be a guy who's always hustling. That was most of his problem. Not going to say his name. Putting his max effort in every single day. I mean, that's absolutely what offensive line coach Dan Ruchar wants to not just coach. He wants to have a guy like Joe Thuney on this team for these young guys to watch. That speaks way more than having an offensive line coach yell in your face the whole practice. And that's so cool. A little more from Ruchar. It's invaluable to have him. Watch how he does everything from the minute he enters the building to how he goes into the meeting to what he does on the field, whether it be a walkthrough or any team rep. It's invaluable to have this guy on this team. Cole Kmet, just the presence of it. When you've won 4 Super Bowls with 2 different franchises, that really sticks out, right? He has that poise to him every single practice. He's so consistent. Jonah Jackson is growing by being next to him online. He's been doing it at a high clip for so long. I've really honestly not seen him lose. The guy's undefeated. Theo Benedict, we're not even talking about this guy who's rapidly developing. He might be the left tackle of the future here. Even he had this to say. And he's being influenced by Thuney every single day. Technically, there's a ton of stuff that he's already learned from Thuney, specifically on how Thuney uses leverage. It's just so cool. Kmet a little more. Seeing him up close and watching him work, no doubt in my mind, I think he's a Hall of Fame guard. So it's just like so good. We've got Dayo Odangbo. He was on a drill during practice, and it was pretty much like this is an obvious situation that you cannot jump. And he's talking about Joe Thuney helping the defense be smart. He said some of the things he was doing to try to get you to jump off sides were some veteran moves. He makes you lock in with your eyes, your hands, everything else. And Grady Jarrett, he said, like the main point of this video, iron sharpens iron. Absolutely, Joe Thuney is that sharpening stone for this team. And it's just fantastic, man. And it's just so cool. Jarrett said, Thuney is someone that I've played against a lot of times, so the respect that I have for him as a competitor is through the roof. It is just absolutely fantastic. And you also saw Oliver interact with him during the Buffalo Bills Hard Knocks, how he reacted with Joe Thuney. He's like, bro, you are so effing deceptively, like, what the heck, bro? I can't even figure you out. And that's from a guy in a joint practice. The thing is, watching the games, this is a player that's going to be so good, you might not even notice him during the games. And maybe by his influence, by his presence, other offensive lines, other offensive linemen on this team are not going to be noticed during the game, because if you're an offensive lineman, your name's never called. That means you're doing a heck of a job. Joe Thuney is going to allow this to happen, and I cannot be more excited for this offensive line. And the addition of Joe Thuney may be the linchpin of all of it. Bear down, you guys. We're days from this Monday night game against Minnesota Vikings. I cannot be more excited, and you should be too. Let's kick some butt against Minnesota at Soldier Field. Bear down, and we'll talk tomorrow. See ya.